All right, so we're here at the Baltimore Free Farm, and we're having a chat about permaculture and ecologically oriented solutions in our society. I'm curious what you guys think about the barrier we run into when we try and do this stuff, when we interface with existing legal structures like laws. And then you were talking earlier about trying to buy land to garden on it, and the city didn't really like that. I found studying permaculture that permaculture has a lot of great ideas and solutions, but so many of them we can't implement because the laws and the county, they'll come in and say you don't have permits and all this stuff. So do you run into any of that here, or what's your experience with interfacing with the government?
The permit thing, like, we really haven't had an issue in the city. But as far as, like, building a shed, you know, I think we got a permit for our chickens, but, like, we didn't get a permit to build the outdoor structure, like the outdoor shed, and no one seemed to care.
Cool.
But we've had other issues, like, I'm a little worried, like, if we do relocate the compost system, it'll be up where more people can see it. You know, and if they see, like, one rat, they're just going to be, like, freaking out.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know. The neighbors can pose, like, challenges, you know, but we've really tried to just work with our neighbors.
Yeah, that's a good way to go about it. And with the food distribution program, where you guys are handing out food, some of them like cooked meals, you said, with food not bombs, do you have any issues with regulations or laws or anything there? Or do they ask you to go through certain hoops to be able to do that, or do they just kind of leave you to do it?
Food not bombs had an issue once where they used to serve. They were told, the cops came and they were told they had to leave and they couldn't serve food without a permit. So they just moved locations, and so far they've been there for a while now. Nothing's happened. So the permit process, I feel like they looked into it and it was sort of extensive and expensive.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure the details of that.
Well, it's good to hear that they just found a way around it, because that's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's like you want to do a good thing, and it seems like the city government or the county or whoever would be wanting to encourage that and would want to help you, and instead it seems like they throw up every possible barrier to make it happen. And I feel like part of why I'm into agorism is because I feel like we got to just start doing stuff anyway without their permission, and when they challenge us on it, we should challenge them and be like, no, you guys are wrong, and we'll prove it. Let's do a study. Let's analyze. Like, you know, a lot of times their reason for the rule is actually kind of just baloney. And if you can satisfy whatever that reason is, health concerns or safety concerns, it seems like that would do away with the need for the limitation. But I always want to talk with people who do activist projects and find out how much resistance they run into. Some cities, they actually work with them, and they're like, yay, great, do it. And give them funding and stuff. Do you guys get funding from anything other than your own efforts, or do you have to like do fundraising?
We do fundraising.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Two major events a year. One's called Fancy Dinner, and the other one's called Strange Folks, which is like a backyard like music festival, and we make pizza.
Nice.
So we do those two things, and then we throw events in the warehouse.
Cool. So the warehouse.
We do, you know, plant sales and other things like that.
That warehouse space is big enough for events and has everything you need for all that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And do you also store stuff there? Like, is that where you like, what's in there? I'm curious what's over there.
We were for a while, and now we're trying to rent out part of the space so that we don't have to worry as much about the portion of the income. And
yeah, it helps a lot to have a steady gig. Would you rent it to someone who's sort of compatible, so there's symbiosis, or just to anybody? Like, how do you go about that?
Yeah, we're trying to rent it to somebody who's like-minded.
Yeah,
compatible.
Makes sense. Because I mean, is it like an actual shared space, or are there walls separating their space and yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's walls.
Okay, so it could be something else.
Yeah.
Very neat. Very neat. Now, do you feel like the community around here the response has been good? That are people getting involved and getting active? You say people from the area are renting out the community garden plots, yeah?
Yeah, we try to give priority to people that live in the neighborhood. And most of the plot holders do live in the neighborhood. Some live in nearby neighborhoods that don't have like growing space.
Right.
And then as far as like our neighbors, I don't know that they necessarily like come volunteer and stuff like that, but they'll sometimes come to events or like one guy, we used to have chickens. We have them again, but they're babies. But the neighbors would come by, especially if they have kids, to like look at the chickens.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw, but today that chicken guy emailed us.
Yeah.
He has a daughter and he wanted to come check out the chicks, and he was like, proud to have you as a neighbor. And I was like, oh.
Nice.
So for the most part, like I think people like that we're here, and sometimes we can't do all the things that we want to do, like have a brush fire.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Can you tell me a little bit about how this organization got started, or where the idea came from, and what it took to get it off the ground?
Well, the idea came from, I wasn't here then, but it was a group of friends that there's a program in the city called Adopt a Lot, where you can adopt city-owned property for like a period of time. It's a year lease that you sign, and then you can garden on it or whatever. And so they found this lot, the community garden lot, and vacant houses, because the two of those houses were vacant. And so their big plan was to like squat and garden.
Nice plan.
Yeah. So they early on they got they thought to become a nonprofit. They got and we still have a fiscal sponsor, so we're not like our own nonprofit. And they've been great. So they got them early on, and then I don't know, it was just like ambitious people that were out of work, and they made the community garden, and they farmed it, and then they like got the warehouse and then the top lot by contacting the owners and being like, this building isn't being used, or this land isn't being used, like, can we use it?
Yeah. And they made sort of an informal deal for occupancy and use.
Yeah. And then when the warehouse, like when we got the fiscal sponsor, then they kind of helped be like, it was like more legit that way.
Formalizing it.
Yeah, formalizing it.
Interesting. Well, that's great that you were able to get it started without that formal process. And that's something I'm real interested in, is like, not everybody has access to sponsorship, money, organizational support. And I feel like I want to encourage personally people to go out and do stuff anyway, and to just make it happen. And I feel like you guys are an example of
that's pretty much
that's how it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Very nice. And are there any like long-term plans, or is you just hoping to like this property is owned by the nonprofit? Yeah.
Well, the houses are, and that one lot.
The one lot, yeah.
Permaculture
lot.
We've talked about the top lot where the greenhouse is. The guy. I mean, if we wanted to buy it, he might, but like we don't have money for that.
Right.
And the community garden. We have in the past been looking into getting it protected. There's a community managed open space land trust in Baltimore. Oh,
interesting.
So they work with the city on lots like this that have been adopted for a long time. And, so we're still sort of in the process, or like the maybe phase of that. Just so that it's protected. And I mean, we could buy it, like probably go through the paperwork and, petition this, or like fill out the bidding process thing, and but again, the money situation is and it's not like we want to own all this, we're not like,
that's not the end game, right? I have the whole block.
It's more like just have it being protected. We don't really care who owns it.
Well, I think that's a pretty big aspect of what it's going to take to do this sort of work, is going to be to get a little bit out of the paradigm of ownership, title, and legal control over land, over large. I mean, don't get me wrong. I believe people should be able to have private property, private land, and own property. But I feel like there's a lot of property that doesn't need to be owned by anybody, and it makes more sense to put it into the commons and to let it be managed by the people who can show up to do it. And it seems like this is a little bit of an example of that. If the city's turning it over to you guys to use, you don't really own it, and yet even without the ownership, cool stuff happens on it. And it shows how determined people are to make plants grow and create food out of these otherwise food desert urban landscapes. Well, I think it's a great project. I'm glad to get to visit, so thank y'all for talking with me.